Good morning. Haiti Lopez with Florida You Judge, and I am here this morning with my two co-hosts, Keela McCaskill and Stephanie Pointer. We have a very special guest. Hillsborough County State Attorney Suzy Lopez is joining us this morning. We're going to have, I believe, to be in a really good conversation about many important issues in the criminal justice system. So, good morning, Ms. Lopez.
Good
How
morning.
are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you? It's a beautiful Saturday.
I haven't been out yet in the studio, but I believe you, and so I'll be experiencing that after this is done. How are you two other gals, Stephanie and Keela?
Oh, I'm fabulous. Pretty good.
Okay, so let's just start off.
Can
Miss
we-
Lopez, can I call you Suzy?
Please do. Please do.
Suzy, so welcome, and I know that 2024 election time, you're running for election to continue to lead the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office. You were appointed in 2022, yes?
August of 2022.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We want to know you more. We want the viewers, those who are going to be voting, to know a little bit about you, how you started your career, and where you got, how you got to this point now.
Okay. I was born and raised in Tampa, and I went away to college and law school. When I moved home from law school, I was a staff attorney at the Second District Court of Appeal. And then I came to the state attorney's office in January of 2005. And I was in misdemeanor, and I worked my way through misdemeanor and went to the felony division in 2006. And from 2005 to the end of 2021, I prosecuted homicides, robberies, burglaries, drug trafficking. I was assigned to the drug trafficking division for about 3 years. And at the end of 2021, I was appointed to be a judge. And on January 3rd of 2022, I started as a county civil judge in Hillsborough County. I did everything from landlord-tenant issues to windshield litigation, which I didn't even really know existed that much, but it's very interesting litigation. I also did small claims court, anything under $8,000. Very often those are with pro se litigants, so people who were coming to court representing themselves. And I also did kind of neighbor versus neighbor or citizen versus citizen, kind of like in the people's court. And I absolutely loved it. I loved being in court with people, with citizens, and many of whom had never been in a courtroom before, kind of helping them navigate their way through. We would have small trials. I did not have any jury trials. They aren't very common in county civil. But I was very happy as a judge. And then I was appointed to be the first female state attorney in Hillsborough County in August of 2022. So I've been here a little over 18 months. I was only gone for about 7 months. So the 320 wonderful people I work with, we have investigators, support staff, attorneys, and victim advocates welcomed me home. And so I've been leading this office now for about 18 months, and we've seen some pretty significant changes that we're really proud about. First, we've rebuilt our relationships with law enforcement. We have great law enforcement partners, and we support them and they support us. So I'm really proud of our relationships with them. And for the first time since 2018, we have an attorney in every attorney position in the office. We were understaffed. And this is, of course, before we knew what COVID was. And so we last summer had about 30 interns, and from the college age all the way up through law school, to teach people what it is that we do about our public service. Because everybody who works in this office, from the support staff to the attorneys, could go out into private practice and probably make a lot more money. They're amazing workers, but they're just dedicated public servants. So I'm really proud of that. And so we have a big class of interns coming in again this summer. And that will build up. So when they graduate from law school and pass the bar exam, that they will come and work for us. And so we've gotten very involved in the community as well. And I went to an event last night, and someone said that they see the state attorney's office out a lot, and I'm really proud of that. I have kind of forced fun activities, is what I kind of jokingly call them. When I first came into office, every attorney had to do a ride along with law enforcement. Not 2 hours speed patrol on Bayshore, but a real 8-hour shift to see the de-escalations that law enforcement often have to perform, as well as the extensions of grace that they give citizens who are just maybe, driving when they're not supposed to be driving if they don't have a license, and maybe letting the passenger drive. So there are extensions of grace. And there are also difficult situations. And so everyone had to do that. And then in the beginning part of 2023, all of the attorneys had to do a tour of Grace Point, which is our community partner for mental health. We all thought we knew what Grace Point was, but we really didn't. And Grace Point is a great community partner. And then in the last part of 2023, all of our attorneys had to do a tour of Abe Brown Ministries. The work of Mr. Blunt and Abe Brown is absolutely phenomenal. And so we're trying to build in their Inspire program. That's INSP capital HIRE. It used to be Ready for Work, to try and build that into some probationary sentences, because the recidivism rate for people who have completed Inspire is incredibly low, and they develop job skills. And so now for this part of 2024, all of our attorneys are touring the brand new HCSO firearms lab and their latent print lab. The things that the sheriff's office has done in recent years is really incredible. They have some great vocational programs. And so while we can't control who goes into a vocational program, we're very interested in them, because again, for those programs, the recidivism rate is incredibly low. The sheriff has vocational classes. He has anything from nails and hair braiding to carpentry and welding. And there's a new structure that's being built at the Falkenberg Road Jail right now for carpentry. And what is paying for that is the inmate canteens. So when people's families put money into their canteen for cookies or snacks, that's actually what's paying for these programs. And I've attended a couple of the graduations, and they're just incredible to watch. And again, the recidivism rates are down for people who have graduated from these programs. And of course, that's exactly what it is that we want to see. So the state attorney's office right now is thriving. We yesterday afternoon went out to TPD District 2 for one of our Pizza with the Police programs. We take a meal and share a meal with officers at the beginning of their shifts at what's called their roll call. And we just break bread with them and let them get to know us, and we get to know them and answer any legal questions that they may have. So that's something that we do with every law enforcement agency. We try to do about one a month. And part of what we've also done, that's part of our Bridging the Badge program. And after the ride-alongs, we learned that there were officers and deputies who said, well, your attorneys did a ride-along with me. I want to do a ride-along with you. So now we have a program, part of Bridging the Badge, where law enforcement officers, the new recruits, come and spend some time with us in the courtroom to see what it is that we do in court, because communication is so important to everything that we do, and collaboration.
Okay, well, wow, that's a lot. And
that was probably more than you were bargaining for.
No, it's criminal justice related, and that we should all know about.
Well, it helps.
Things that
it
are
helps.
happening.
It really does help, because I wasn't expecting all of that, particularly since my mindset as a community member had never really been involved in much of what takes place from a state attorney. I really hadn't had, I wasn't involved in that at all. I'd never been in the system at all. So to hear all of that, and then also to know that, one of the first things, unfortunately, Suzy, is the first things that comes to mind is when you came on board, it was the whole biking while black. And I thought, oh gosh, and that's for later discussion, but to hear all of those things, I had one question come up though. All those programs are great. Actually, I wanted to just go back through them, but I was wondering, is there something with the amount of children that are being tried as adults?
I think Stephanie wanted to cover that.
No, she didn't.
Okay,
I just had a question. She didn't have
no,
to
go ahead, Keely.
Gotcha.
I just had a question with that. What do you have in place similar to those programs to help try to minimize or mitigate as many of those situations as possible? Because one of those programs, I know you can't control who goes into the, say, vocational program, or you can't control who gets into those systems. Is there something similar in place for that situation?
Can I piggyback real quickly? And I'm glad that Suzy went ahead and let us know, and the public know what the sheriff's office is doing, because Suzy and anybody that would lead a state attorney's office, one of their goals should be to reduce recidivism. Okay, part of the system should have as a component rehabilitation to stop criminality in the future. So I'm glad she said that. That's awesome that the sheriff's office has that in place to help those who are there, so that when they come out, they can become law-abiding, productive citizens. So I want to piggyback on what you're saying, because I think that one of the things that all of us wanted to know, I looked at some of that, which is on your website, the state attorney's office website, some of the stats when Warren was in office, with as far as the adult direct files. And the numbers, I think there was a decrease when he was in office. I don't know what the stats are now under your leadership. I don't. This is more of a general question. We want to know, as far as direct files, adults.
What is a direct file for those of us who are
can you
not
explain
legally
that?
minded,
Yes.
please?
Yes.
Thank you for asking that, because I think it's an interesting term. When a juvenile is charged as an adult in adult court, that is what we call a direct file. Of course, there are certain parameters that we have to remain. We have to follow the law, of course, in everything that we do. So when a juvenile is charged as an adult, that is what we call a direct file.
So, what I wanted to know, I think we all want to know, and the public too, because a lot of times in political events, or when there's campaigns, there's the term school to prison pipeline, right? And we want to try to salvage young people that can be salvageable. Yesterday, I was having dinner with Keila, and I mentioned I was excited about being able to ask this question, because some people don't know. I said this recently in a court, and a judge didn't know that. But as a teenager growing up in Miami, I dropped out of school at 15, 16. Yes, I did. I did. And I was hanging around with the wrong crowd, and I was making poor decisions as a teenager.
What made you turn it around?
Jesus Christ. At 19, my mom invited me to church. I was 19, September 20th, 1987. And I had, through the power of Christ, I was changed. I cut ties with a lot of the young people I was hanging around with. And I just focused on working, school, and here I am. So there's a special place in my heart for young people, because that could have been me, maybe being direct file. I mean, I didn't do anything quite to that degree that may have put me in, but, I made bad decisions. And so what are we doing when you can discretionarily and are not required by law to salvage those that are salvageable? Because Suzy, there's been a line of cases from the Supreme Court. Young people, juveniles and adults, is two different categories.
Yep.
So what is your office doing to make sure that the wrong young person does not end up in the adult system, and then by virtue of that, they're lost, we lose them?
There is a program called Safe and Sound Hillsborough, and I sit on the Leadership Council of Safe and Sound Hillsborough. Ms. Holt, the public defender, is the chair of the council. I sit on it, as well as there's a representative from TPD, HCSO, Temple Terrace. We have Dr. Heidi from USF sitting on the council, and the executive director is a man named Freddie Barton, who's absolutely an incredible human being. And Freddie is one of the most dedicated public servants and servant leaders that I've ever met. I met him before I became state attorney, and he has a program called the Evening Reporting Center that actually Ms. Holt was very instrumental in creating. And there are crimes that are completely appropriate, that are gun related, for young men to go into Mr. Barton's program with the reporting center. These are generally firearm possession cases. These are not cases where someone is shot or someone is killed. But Mr. Barton's recidivism rate is incredibly low. And that's something that he's very proud of. And as a member of the Leadership Council, I'm very proud of as well.
Where can the public get those numbers from Safe and Sound?
Safe and Sound Hillsborough, I believe it's safeandsoundhillsborough.org, but I can look that up in just a second.
No, you don't. I'll do it. I want to then thereafter. I don't want you to have to focus on that, but there are. No, I want to see because, let me go ahead and present this.
The work that Mr. Barton does is really incredible, because what he does is and they are generally young men. There are occasionally young women in there, but they're generally young men in this program. And they go through, and at various times they will have to write their own obituary. They will have to visit a funeral home, a trauma center, to learn about gun violence, because that is typically where we are seeing juveniles who are direct filed into adult court are for firearms charges. And I can tell you, Haiti, that is one of the most difficult things that, as the state attorney and as leaders in this office, we do, is making a decision to charge a juvenile as an adult. We take a number of things into consideration: that juvenile's prior record, the crime that they are alleged to have committed that has gotten this case before us.
Do you have cases where your office initially was maybe inclined to do a direct file, and Safe and Sound, the public defender's office, whatever they presented mitigation wise or otherwise, the assistant state attorney handling the matter decided, okay, let's not do the adult direct file, let's keep them in juvie court?
Oh yeah, of course. The doors of communication are always open between the public defender's office and the state attorney's office. And that might be something that surprises people, but we have great lines of communication, and the public defender's office works very, very tirelessly to provide mitigation for us. There are some occasions, though, where public safety, being our number one priority, can only be served by someone being charged as an adult. Such as a homicide.
Okay. All right. I understand.
I don't want to talk about any specific pending cases.
Of course, not at all.
We do have a juvenile right now who is charged as an adult because he killed another person with a firearm.
Understood. But like, is there a category of, with the exception of homicide, that burglary, robberies, maybe like you just pointed out, Safe and Sound deals with cases involving firearm, that some of those are maybe do not end up in the adult system?
And these decisions aren't made by just one person. They're made by a group of people. And so we look at every case on a case-by-case basis, and we look at a number of different things, not just the crime with which they are charged, but what is that person's prior record? What is that person's prior law enforcement contact or contact with law enforcement? We look at a number of different things. And so this is not something that is just made without careful consideration. And like I said, this is probably one of the hardest things that we do in this office, is making a decision to charge a juvenile as an adult.
Understood.
I have a question.
Stephanie, go or okay, Keila.
Some time ago, one of the things that DeSantis came up with was an initiative to support, I guess, fatherhood or organizations that supports that. And I just wanted to know, it was like over $70 million. Is that program a part of some of the things that you all are doing in addition to the vocation, training and things like that? Because it was like a significant investment. And I guess he saw that a lot of what we're seeing has a lot to do with fatherhood or mentorship of fathers or men. And I just wanted to know if that was looped in any of the organizations that you are working with, because I think it was a significant investment in the state of Florida, and it trickled down to Tampa. And I just wanted to see if that's a part of it at all. One, are you using that program? And then two, what could people like myself in the community do to support those vocational trainings? Like, I don't know, do they need mentors? Do they need people involved so that they can see people outside of the system coming in to support them in this? Because I hadn't heard of it. I'm just going to tell you right now, I didn't know that it was going on. And I just wanted to know, as a community member, not that I can add anything else on my plate, but I would commit if I could. If you know of any opportunities for the community to support these people that's offering the training, if they need support and or mentorship to help try and mitigate as many of these situations as possible, if you know of opportunities we can.
Okay. If those dollars have trickled down, I don't know if it, like you said, I don't know if they've specifically come under that heading of this is what this is, but we do have, the legislature has been, we always can say that we could use more money for things like this because this is such important work. But I'm sure that if the money has trickled down, it is supporting a lot of the initiatives that we have. And as far as what can citizens do, citizens can do so much. We have a police officer from TPD who was seeing that kids were getting in trouble during the summer because they're not in school. And so what keeps a kid out of trouble? Being busy. And so she started a program only about 2 years ago called Shielding Our Teens. And she has done absolutely phenomenal work. And what she does is she gets teens during the school year. My office has partnered with her. And so we have attorneys who go over and help mentor kids. And she does it in phases to get these kids jobs for the summer. And she first starts with them, how to answer interview questions, how to dress for interviews. So we've had some of our local stores have partnered with her to donate clothes so kids can go to an interview and dress appropriately, and they learn how to interview. And the last phase is she brings in businesses, Wawa, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, you name it. And they come in and they interview these kids, and these kids walk away with summer jobs. So not only are they busy, but they're making money to take home to their families to help support themselves. And so that was just an initiative that an officer who saw a need decided to take on, and she's been incredibly successful. She started out in 5 schools, and it's growing absolutely exponentially. And so that's a program that our office has gotten involved in as well. I'm a big believer in mentors. I think that no matter what age you are, everybody can always use a mentor. I had mentors, and so many people I know have either had mentors or been mentors. And so we are starting in about March, we're going to be having mentors in our drug court. And that's something, it's peer support. And that's something that we're really proud of. Our Veterans Treatment Court, which is the best veterans treatment court in the country by far. We are the benchmark, and any jurisdiction that starts a veterans treatment court, they come to Hillsborough County to see how our veterans treatment court is run. That is a mentor-mentee based program. And we get veterans when they've put their lives on the line to serve our country, and we get them on their worst day. They've committed a crime, and we get them on their worst day. And so to go to these graduations and watch, because sometimes it doesn't happen on the first try, but they have a mentor who's there to help pick them back up and get through the Veterans Treatment Court program with our community partners, with James A. Haley, with Bay Pines. And so these veterans are able to graduate and deal with their criminal charges. And so I'm a big believer in mentors, and I think anybody can be a mentor. It's just a matter of showing up. And so the Big Brothers Big Sisters is coming to the state attorney's office in April for a program where we've told people, you're not leaving with a kid, you're not staying with the kid for the rest of their lives, but it's a one-day mentorship program. So that they can come and learn what it is that we do for a day. And we're opening it up to our attorneys, our support staff, our investigators to come spend time and mentor young kids, because I think that is so incredibly important to keep kids out of trouble.
Okay. So I would need to sign up with Big Brother, Big Sister to come that day in April. Right.
Well, that day in April is only for the employees of the state attorney's office, but there are so many different agencies who are always looking for people who are willing to give of themselves and give their time. Because I think if a young person doesn't have a solid parent at home or someone, a solid support system, then, we as community members can help step in.
I'm sure if you reach out to Suzy's office, whoever you might be directed to will help maybe assist you in seeking those opportunities of mentorship. Yeah. Stephanie, because we got to move on. There's 2 other areas. So before you ask whatever in this area of juvenile justice, I did shared the stats between 2016 and 2021 before you took office. Suzy, are there any recent data on direct file numbers?
Those are numbers that we can certainly get to you from 2022.
Okay.
2023, of course, just ended. But like I said, we have to take the totality of all of the circumstances into place and know that it is one of the hardest things that we do here, because it does change the trajectory of a juvenile's life. But public safety is our number one mission. And juvenile crime, used to be kids breaking into cars and stealing sunglasses, and now kids are breaking into cars and they're stealing guns. And the statistic that I have is a little bit old. It's the first 6 months of 2023.
I just wanted, listen, I'm not going to press you or just wanting them immediately. I just want to
know
no,
but
at some point.
Oh, absolutely. No, but my statistic that I can give you is in the first 6 months of 2023 in the county, there were 143 guns that were reported stolen. So that there were more that were stolen that just weren't reported. And of that, 2 of them involved the breaking of a car window. 87% of that 143 came from unlocked cars. And so I've spoken with Freddie Barton from Safe and Sound, and I said, Freddie, where the heck are these kids getting these guns? Because there's no law that's going to allow a 13 or 14-year-old to go out and buy a gun. And where they're getting the guns is from unlocked cars. And so we've all seen on the 6 o'clock news, and I mean, I don't want to say these kids are smart because I don't want to give them any credit, but they know what they're doing because they travel in 4s. 2 kids can go up to a car, check the locks, and then they let the 2 behind them know, because where's a gun going to be? Center console, under the seat, glove compartment.
Maybe there should be. Well, I know it's a problem, and you know what? The sheriff out here in the 6th Circuit has at some point, or in the past, and some defense attorneys had a problem with the possibilities of people being arrested because they were going in the cars and locking them. Maybe to prevent this sort of situation. I don't know what could legislatively be done to put some liability on people that leave their.
Yeah, talk to Tallahassee.
No, yeah. Okay, Stephanie, because I want to move into the other areas.
Yeah, as somebody who taught, first of all, I'm middle school certified. So I
what age range is that?
That's I'm sorry. That's
what age range?
Grade, 6th grade through 8th grade. So 11 to 14.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
And then I spent 2 years at Job Corps between DC, Baltimore, and Annapolis. So, I mean, it was a very interesting bunch. And I always said that I was teaching the same kids there that I taught in Louisville, Kentucky. They were just bigger. And I absolutely believe that mentorship is essential. And I even say that for my own kids, because my own children do not listen to me, trust me. But for them to have somebody that cares about them, you can move mountains with kids who are having issues. And for them to have somebody that they know they can pick up the phone and call and say, listen, I don't have laundry soap, and that's where, and those are the kids that you guys eventually see. You could, but being able to identify with them and have conversations with them, and that's what my role as a teacher was really about. But here's the thing: spending 2 years at Job Corps was eye-opening at the fact that your frontal lobe is not fully developed until you're about 23 years old. And when we called them students, but they were really kids, even though, some of them were well over the age of over 21, and they still mentally, many of them still behave like children. And so it bothers me. Of course, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I had kids who walked into my room in 8th grade and I went, oh my Lord. And I honestly, I had an 8th grader one time. I asked him, I was like, Julio, is your personal disposition in life to run cell block C? Because you are a smart guy. He was always a very smart guy, an excellent student, but man, he could not stay out of the middle of the stuff. So it was, you know, so I have seen the befores, and trying to figure out how to not get them to your office is the hard part. And I guess, and I think that the mentoring program is important. I think that, but really and truly, until we start reaching out to kids, and in my last position here in Florida, I taught kids starting from kindergarten all the way through 10th grade. And I'll be honest with you, there were some that by the end of first grade, I'm like, oh my Lord, they already are going to need help to stay out of trouble. And how we do that, I don't know. But
Okay, so
I guess my question for you is, and I just want to,
Yeah.
is where's the cutoff? I mean, really and truly, if their brains are still developing, and they are still in that mode, because when your frontal lobe's developing, that's why we're the broken records. You know, we have to say the same thing over and over and over again to get there. So, and the research shows, and I remember listening to an NPR show where kids who commit serious crimes, if you ask them, why did you do that? I don't know. They really don't. They don't have an answer. They don't have an instantaneous. And so how to get out in front of them coming to you in the bad way. And I also want to say, this new mentoring program, they should really sit down with the Veterans Treatment Court mentors and do the training with them prior, and so that they can see how the training is done, because their training program is amazing. I only know about this because it happens via Zoom sometimes, and I have heard a little bit more of it than most people would. It's all anonymous, but training their mentors it's amazing to see that.
So Stephanie, I think Suzy said that these cases with what we're talking about, the young juveniles and the adult direct files, it's done on a case by case, because you've already pointed out to the brain science, right? The frontal cortex, and I don't know, how do we find out with the cases? I don't know. That's why I'm asking for data, and I'm even looking at the data. I'm not gonna be able to tell the child what they were arrested and charged with, and why one didn't go into adult court and the other one did. How do we find out?
Sorry, that I told
Is there
you.
a database with that information?
Dog. He's trying to weigh in.
What's his name?
His name is August.
Okay, so since you asked that, let's go ahead and go dive into, not in depth because we don't have a lot of time, but just real quick, ESAS.
Yes.
It's a system. I spoke to Suzy about it. This is not a blindside attempt.
Can you tell us what ESAS stands for?
Yes, it is Equity and Sentencing Analysis System, and it was created by an attorney, Al Barlow, with the help of two other individuals. This is their team. These three men created a system in response to a Sarasota Herald Tribune article of Explore Each County's Racial Disparities in Sentencing. This came out in 2016. They did a whole expose on this with stats, numbers, Florida's broken sentencing system. If you read the article, it was pointed at the judges. The sentencings are not equitable. There's disparity when you compare blacks and whites and da-da-da. If you read the article, mention was the judges, those who weighed in with this article, said, it has nothing really to do with us. We pretty much it's rubber stamp when there's a defense and prosecutor work out a deal. We go ahead and we rubber stamp that. So if anything, the article mentions that it's some shifted blame to law enforcement. Others pointed to prosecutors. So I spoke to Suzy about this, just to kind of get her take, and I'm going to stop the screen share. ESAS created this, or Al Barlow created ESAS, which I just shared. as a way. It's a database. They get their numbers through FDLE, who gets their numbers through the Department of Corrections. There's a score sheet that in circuit court, everybody. You go ahead and explain the score sheet, Suzy. Explain that, and then talk about this system that's been out for several years. The Public Defender's Office, since you've spoken to some of the good things they do with their advocacy of juveniles, they have it. They use this system to have reports generated to look at disparities when comparing oranges to oranges with the reports that can be generated through this system. Chris Sprowls, in 2020, he was the former House Speaker. The state, he introduced a bill which was passed in order to create their own criminal justice database. Interestingly, Al Barlow offered the one that he created, to the state for free. Okay, they passed that opportunity up to use it. So it depends on which county, which state attorney's office, the public defender's office decides to use it. That's the only thing that is available currently. But Chris Sprowls introduced the legislation. In 2020, the headline came out that a much heralded criminal justice database may not be complete by the beginning of 2020. I asked Chris Sprowls via social media what the status of that was. He said to me in 2020, I don't think he's no longer a legislator, but he said, Haiti, thanks for the comment. As you may have seen, I'm quoted in the article, while I'm disappointed by the delays and eager to have the portal up, the data has already been assembled from across the state, something no state in America has done or has even tried to do. When it is complete, which should be before the session, it will be the only thing of its kind in the United States. Thanks again. It's not available. It's nowhere to be found. We're in 2024. This is something that they said, passed a bill on, paid money for, and it doesn't exist. In order to collect data throughout the state, in order that policymakers such as Suzy, she's a policymaker, could be assisted in making decisions with issues that we're talking about. Suzy.
I will start off by saying that I applaud Mr. Barlow, as well as Speaker Sprowls. He was the former Speaker of the House in Florida, for taking this on and to looking into this. I think that this kind of research, I think, is very important. I am looking at what you had provided to me, and you and I discussed it before we came on. I'm very interested to see what our numbers look like right now. The cases that we've looked at are all sexual battery in nature. And are you putting it up now?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I emailed you. That's just it's an Excel file.
Yeah. And they go back sentencing dates as far as the year 2000. The most recent one, I believe, was in 2021. And so I would be interested to see what the updated data is. As I mentioned earlier, the doors of communication are always open between this office and the Hillsborough Public Defender's Office. We are a very unique jurisdiction. The state of Florida has 20 judicial circuits, and we are one of only 5 that is a single county. So, Haiti, you mentioned earlier about the 6th Circuit. The 6th Circuit is actually 2 counties. It's Pinellas and Pasco. We are the 13th Circuit, and we are only Hillsborough. And so and I don't know what the reason is. I think that we just have whatever's in the secret sauce for Hillsborough County, I think is fantastic, because the doors of communication between Ms. Holt's lawyers and my lawyers are always open. And so a lot of the statistics that we had in the other slide that you had put up were from about 26, updated in 2016. And we're just not seeing the numbers like that we're seeing in other jurisdictions, that we're seeing in Hillsborough County, because, and I've spoken with the Public Defender's Office, and as far as they're providing the ESATS reports to us, it's not something that's done very commonly, because what I understand is they don't need to, because we make what we consider to be fair offers, and very often what the Public Defender's Office considers to be fair enough that they don't need to provide this ESAS research and I'm blanking on the right word right now, but that they don't need to provide it to us. And so I would be interested, of course, to see more updated when Mr. Barlow gets more updated statistics. But I think it's having open lines of communication and also looking at every case on a case by case basis that is helping us get to situations where we don't see the disparities that perhaps other jurisdictions may see. And from what I understand, other jurisdictions may.
Okay, so look, good on the Hillsborough County Public Defender. I know that I spoke to the public defender and did facilitated presentations that where Al Barlow was able to go to one of Frank Delagrana's restaurants, did a presentation. Julian Holt was there along with Chris Watson and private attorneys, and they saw it. And good on the PD's office because she immediately jumped on board with that. I know some public defender's office do not have this system, which is the only one that you can really use in order to do a comparison. But so good on them. I'll maybe have one of the political activists follow up with that office in order to see, because you know what, I'm not going to second guess what the good attorneys in that office are doing on behalf of their clients. I know that I have used reports. I've paid for my clients, my private clients have paid for reports at times, just to be able to be incredibly thorough as far as offers and whether they're fair or not. There's a comparison that can be seen in the reports generated. I also want to give props to Al Barlow because he's an African-American attorney, an honorable man. He, along with those two other individuals, created this system in response to the Herald Tribune article. And he has always told me, Haiti, this isn't about just looking at disparities between blacks and whites, but even disparities that would hurt whites or women or poor people. So he just wants the system to be equitable. And that Excel file that I just shared that you saw doesn't bear that out. The equity, despite the score sheet, which its creation was created with the goal, the objective of sentencing being equal, because we are a nation that should be everyone equal under the law. Okay.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else we want to say about that?
So I just looked in the chat section. So I don't know if you want to move.
I would love to. I just had to write it down or I'd forget it.
Okay, so you go ahead, David. Coleman went off.
My question that I have is, I want to know if anybody's ever had weapons stolen multiple times out of their vehicles.
Yeah.
And actually been prosecuted, even if you just talked about prosecuting it, because that's the adult in that situation. They're the people whose frontal lobes are fully developed and they're being irresponsible with their weapon. Even if they left it in the car, I'm sorry, but they did. And, if there's somebody who's done it repeatedly, then, even if they don't, even if it's only that they filed the prosecution against them, that they're prosecuted and it doesn't go any further, one time is all it would take to be on the front page of the Tampa Bay Times. And the apathy that people have for leaving loaded weapons in their car or unloaded weapons in their car would come to a screeching halt. Because that's the problem. I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you that I have left my car open. I've had my car ransacked because I've forgotten, because these stupid fobs, which are fabulous. I mean, I've had it happen twice. My neighborhood has had it happen repeatedly. The juvenile they caught, that it's been a long time ago, so they caught him with a weapon. But we knew who they were because they had my next door neighbor's JSOC ID in their pocket, so they knew where it came from. And so ultimately, if people are being irresponsible with a weapon, and I'm sure that there's probably one guy who's had it happen to him multiple times, and he probably screamed bloody murder every time it happened to him. But I mean, at what point do people start becoming responsible for being irresponsible with a weapon? And
Suzy's gonna tell us to go to Tallahassee.
Well,
because here's the thing: what you just described. Somebody leaves their door open or unlocked. Somebody gets a gun. That gun is used. We can link the gun serial number, who the owner is, and it's used to kill somebody. And there's no proof that the car was broken into, a window was smashed or anything. So logically, you assume the door was left unlocked. Somebody went in, grabbed the gun, and it ended up in the wrong hands, and somebody died. What criminal liability should be placed on that irresponsible gun holder, as you say? That's a legislative issue. I don't think Suzy can do any. I don't think there's any laws on the book that would criminalize that. Yes.
As far as I'm aware, no one's ever been charged. There is something that citizens can do. Both Chief Burkaw and Sheriff Chronister are always giving away free gun locks. So if someone has to leave their gun in their car due to whatever circumstance that they feel that they need to leave their gun in their car, there are gun locks that are available, I think, at pretty much every district at TPD and HCSO for free, to lock guns. I will tell you that I've had a car that when I walk away with the key, it locks automatically. And I've had a car that when you walk away with the key, it doesn't do anything. And so I don't think that people are, I think that like you said, I think that they're just people who are being forgetful, but there are things that can be done. There are steps that can be taken, and that's these gun locks. Every time Chief Burkaw and I have done a press conference to talk about what happened in Ybor City on October 29th, we talk about locking your car doors because, like I said earlier, we've all seen on the 6 o'clock news somebody's Ring camera catching young kids going and taking guns and breaking into cars. And we know from research, we know from anecdotal evidence that is where the guns are coming from. A good portion of them that are out on the street in the hands of teenagers are coming from.
I mean, it happens. I said once, that's okay. Everybody does something stupid one time.
Fool me once. Yeah. No, I get it.
Right. But when you see that, and I'm telling you, I'd be shocked. I would be floored if that hasn't happened. If there's at least one person out there who hasn't had weapons stolen multiple times for doing the same dumb thing because they didn't learn the first 2 times or the first 3 times. And so that's just my thought process on it. And
okay, well, thanks to Dave Coleman for and thank you, Suzy, for pointing out that there's somebody that's making a comment and for us to discuss what they wanted to have discussion on. Lastly, because we're past the time that we set for having Suzy on and discussing it. It's Ben Banneker. No one knows who this is. It's a page. No one knows who is administering this. Is the administrator of this page. But in any event,
what's it called?
Ben Banneker. It's become very popular. There are even politicians, people in office that follow it. And so after I published a notice of today's broadcast, I got a message from him saying, I hope this question is asked. So I don't want it to seem that this is a soft interview or that I'm pulling a punch. You are in office and you're seeking to be elected in this year, this election cycle. I want to thank you, honestly, because you knew that there was possibly going to be some tough questions and you came on anyway. I like that. I don't like people in office that try to dodge coming on, especially live. Biking while black. I have the article, and I'm sure you've already read it. You were quoted in it, where the headline is Hillsborough's new state attorney wants to bring back Tampa's racist biking while black policy, leaders say. Now, you said that you're in partnership with law enforcement, Burkaw, Chronister. I don't doubt that. I see you all. It looks like there's a good working relationship with you all with the objective of public safety. So I'm assuming that Jane Castor being the boss of Lee Burkaw, this would be meaningful to you. In 2016, we all read the Tampa, I think it was 2015 thereabouts, Tampa Bay Times did the whole thing of biking while black and da-da-da-da. Jane Castor at the time was the chief. She defended that policing tactic. But then before she ran or announced that she was going to seek to be the mayor, she said that they were wrong, that the biking while black tickets were wrong. The federal government said after a DOJ investigation said Tampa police bike tickets burden blacks have no benefit. When the article points out to Andrew Warren's policy based on that and the community weighing in and addressing this with his administration, he said he made a decision that because of data that found that 70% of resisting without violence cases in Hillsborough occurred after a pedestrian or bike stop involved black people. 70%, that's huge. That's a huge percentage. And he said that he was not going to do away with completely with biking while black, but when it resulted just in a resisting without violence, that is where he said, no, because of the impact, federal government said it, DOJ, burdening blacks without a benefit. And even Mayor Castor, who at one time defended it, said it was wrong. Some activists, some people in the community want to understand once you come in 2022 in August, you immediately rescind Andrew Warren's policy.
Our policy is to look at every case on a case by case basis. And that's what we do. And that is what we have done. If we feel that something is inappropriate to be filed for criminal charges to be filed, we do not file criminal charges. However, if we feel that it is appropriate under the Florida statutes, we do file. We look at every case on a case by case basis. Just because a case stemmed from one type of action or one type of incident, we don't say, well, we're not going to follow the law and prosecute that. It is our job to apply the Florida statutes to every alleged crime that is alleged to come in via criminal report affidavit, and that is what we do. So we are following the law and looking at everything on a case by case basis, not saying we're not going to prosecute something based on X or Y. We are exercising our discretion where appropriate, but we are following the law and looking at every case on a case by case basis, the merits of that case for every charge from a misdemeanor all the way up to a felony.
Okay, do you have any follow-up, Stephanie or Keila? Because we're going to wrap up. We're going to let Suzy address the voters.
Just with the biking while black. So is that something that you look to bring back, or have you already brought it back? And if so, I just wanted to kind of get a better idea of the mindset. There may be some information that we don't have that you have being in your capacity. So you did not. Okay. So that was just an article.
I don't tell the Tampa Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, what it is that they do. I don't tell them what to do. And of course, we work together, but we're partners. And so we take a case and evaluate every case on a case by case basis to see if there is a violation of Florida law. Our mission at the state attorney's office is public safety. And I say that everybody wants the same thing, whether you live in New Tampa or West Tampa, Belmont Heights or Seminole Heights, everybody wants the same thing. And that's to live in a safe neighborhood. And that's to live in a safe community where you can walk the dog around the block after dinner, or you can feel safe hanging out in your front yard after dark, or quite frankly, even during the day. And so that is our job. And that is our goal, is to promote public safety. And that's working with our law enforcement partners, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Tampa Police Department, of course, Plant City, Temple Terrace, the other agencies, even the airport, all of the other agencies that we work with. We all want a safe community, and crime is down. And that is not my statistic. That's Sheriff Chronister's statistic. Crime is down 8% right now. And think about the number of people who are pouring into Hillsborough County from other jurisdictions, Chicago, New York, Milwaukee, Baltimore, San Francisco. They're pouring into Hillsborough County right now. So we're not losing population. We're not losing people. We're gaining people at an incredibly rapid rate every single week. And yet crime is down. And that's something that we're very proud of. In the city of Tampa, as we sit here right now, homicides are down very significantly year to date, 2024 over 2023, and even over 2022. And so that's the collaboration that we have with our law enforcement partners right now. We're all working together for the same goal, like I said.
You know what? And I believe that the Tampa, their government website has data on that, with the biking issue. They do have data, so I have to look and do follow up on that. And Keila, if you're interested, that's something that you can do as well, since you all are in city council meetings all the time. Okay, I don't have anything else to ask. Stephanie, do you, Keela? Because I'd like for her, Suzy, to be given an opportunity to address the voters and say whatever else she'd like.
No, thank you for coming on. We really do.
Thank you, for
appreciate
real.
it.
Well, ladies, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I love talking to different people and, you know, learning different viewpoints, and especially a teacher who's come from another jurisdiction and then taught here. You know, I think that's great. And I think, you know, Ms. McCaskill wanting to get, you know, to get involved in mentorship, I think that that's something that's really, that's really important. The state attorney's office right now is doing very well. We are thriving working with our law enforcement partners. Um, we I'm proud of the fact that we stand up for victims. That is what we do, and I meet with every family who has lost someone as the result of a crime in Hillsborough County, and those meetings are hard, but they're important. Families used to get a letter in the mail that said, "I'm sorry for your loss, thoughts and prayers," and that wasn't good enough for my office, and that wasn't good enough for the families, and it certainly wasn't good enough for the person that they lost. And so we laugh together, we cry together, we watch videos, and I look at pictures, because it's important for that family to get to know the team that's going to go in to seek justice for their family member that they've lost. And it's important for us to get to know the person that they've lost. And so we stand up for victims, and we're very proud of that. And we're proud to be a very transparent agency. And again, I was happy to come on this morning and spend some time with you all on a beautiful Saturday morning in Hillsborough County. And we're all just working for a safer community. So thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
Haiti Oropesa with Florida You Judge. Thank you, Keela. Stephanie, again, for joining me.
Have a great week.
Everyone have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great rest of the week as well. Thank